What's up, Response on Players? It's Andrew. Wanted to give a quick disclaimer here for today's video. There's a little bit of scuffness with this one. We were only able to get one actual in-person interview for the Toronto Regional, and the rest had to be done online through Discord. Ran into a couple snags, couple bumps on the road, which has also delayed the release of this video, but has proved to be a pretty interesting listen, pretty good watch, and we hope you enjoy the video, and we appreciate you tuning in. Let's get to the video.
What's up? We're back with another top four interview on webcam for the Canadian regional. I'm Jake from Response on Play, and I'm joined by
Tim Keefe.
Tim Keefe. What place did you end up getting at the Canadian regional?
Should be fourth, both because I lost the second place deck and I was eighth after Swiss. So either way you cut it, it's fourth place.
That's still really good. I mean, top cuts, especially in the top half of top cuts, is always impressive.
Yeah, it's a bracket, right? Random stuff happens. I got a little bit bailed out by Wubstick kind of going to Antarctica in our top 8 match, but puts me in top 4, so a few more points.
I mean, I'm sure you already have enough to make day 1. How close are you to day 2? World's points.
This secured day 2 for me. Pragmatically, I just needed top 16 to make sure I would get there with enough little LCs and things like that, but the top 4 just puts me clean over 200, so I could theoretically go into hibernation for the next 4 months and still go to Worlds.
Yeah, hibernation might be good. You can take a little bit of rest while everybody keeps trying to develop this meta. What deck did you end up playing?
So I played an Air Pony Tsunotori. Nothing too exciting, really, right? Kind of a blue chip character. Like I said, I knew going in that I just needed top 16 and I wanted to kind of get it out of the way, so I didn't want to do anything too experimental. Though I like playing sort of more creative brews, but for this one relatively small event, pretty good chance to just bounce a top 16 if I just play something that's not trying to get too cute. So we ship Pony.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like quite a list. You were on stream during the main event, and then you were also on stream at your first match of the top cut against, I believe, Zeke.
Yep. I was War Chief in top cuts, and I faced Rodan on stream and punted my brains out and won the games where I punted the most.
Yeah. So, what are some of your ace cards in the bag that you felt were really good in the current meta for?
So, the reason to be Air Pony over Earth is probably primarily Violet Animus Shot right now, right? You get to have a little bit better of a matchup against the backup decks at the expense of Earth has some tools that help you fight Deku better. So it's kind of a pick your poison there, and I kind of figured there'd probably be more backup decks than Deku's, and so, we ship the air build. Lets me play Tattered Costume too, which is a good all-around card for various, Filled with Doubt is a bit of an annoyance for this deck. Whereas you don't really have a good answer for Aerial Goblin Bolt on air, at least not that I saw, but, just kind of hope to catch Deku without him, basically, if you run into that matchup. But other than that, it's pretty classic modern Pony, just no lethal slash, because, I don't think going all in on turn 2 is that necessary for a character that can play defense the way Pony can. The main reason to play Pony is because she can scale into the mid to late game and be just fine. And in this format, it's very important to be able to play the game on 4 foundations and not necessarily on turn 2, just like later in the game when you get unyielded. If you go down to 4, you want to be able to launch a useful attack string on that, and Pony can do it if she has some counters built up. It's not her favorite thing to do, but it's plausible, right? So, classic Hunter's Ally, Genghis Frog, just sort of something every Pony's going to be doing from here on out. Just get that +3 damage in every move and have some other ally foundations you can grab, or Kiyomi or whatnot.
So what would you say is one of the biggest struggles you had over the day?
I think it was might have been the most represented deck, actually, or one of the 2 or something like that. But, a lot of them, I know Jeffrey Kahn was basically playing my list. I played it against him on Monday, and he was just like, I'm just going to play this. I'm not going to play Godzilla. So he's playing my list, and then there are various lethal slash ponies running around, I believe.
So was there some big boogeyman? Do you feel like Deku is having to be able to play against it and play defense with Pony. Was that like your big boogeyman for the format, or are there things in the format that you're worried about that you didn't see?
Well, I picked Pony because the boogeyman is unyielding, right? The biggest shadow over this format is go to 4 foundations. There's, Deku is a good deck. He has a lot of unique, distinct features that you would like to be able to plan against, but rule number 1, don't lose to unyielding decks, right? That's the number 1 most important thing in this format. Even if it turned out that not many people showed up running unyielding, you still have to be prepared for that possibility, because probably, as good as Deku's one-hit kills are, one of the even arguably more reliable kills in this format is just unyielding into stun move into I'm a check boosting character, a Mimic or a Godzilla or a War Chief. And here's my attack string after you have actually no board. Right. And if I don't get there, well, you only have 4 foundations come at me. So
yeah, the unyielding is an interesting card to say the least. I'm not a huge fan of unyielding personally. I like Foundation Destruction. I just don't like it on such a massive scale. I didn't mind it when it's attached to Godzilla and they have to.
Yeah, I think Godzilla did a pretty good job of nailing the balance of what this kind of effect has to be. But they, in lieu of printing, really crazy deadlock abilities or whatever, they decided they wanted this in the format, and we just have to live with it until if and when we ever don't. So, I've been playing since 2006. I think it's not literally every format for all of time, but it's been a pretty frequent mainstay of whatever's going on in any given format. You need to be able to beat a deck that just wants to sit there and build 20 foundations. Kind of that was Garrett was just like permanently winning event after event like that, when relatively few people were particularly well situated to stop him, just because everyone just kind of wanted to do their own thing instead of planning for the big giant wall decks, I would say. But so from my perspective, like the notion of, well, what if we get rid of unyielding and we see a lot more Rodons now and they're just trying to build foundations and block stuff? Like, okay, right? That's, you should always be trying to build decks that can beat that anyway. And you don't strictly need the word deadlock to do that. A character like Pony that can play 10 attacks in a turn will get there, for instance. Some 4-check theme deck type things that just have really large amounts of stats can do it. If you assemble enough massive mutant machines right now, you can do it without the deadlock keyword. There are ways to scale without expressly using the word deadlock, but also there's some cards like Blow to the Head that are really good deadlock abilities that people aren't playing because it's too blank for their taste, but the card's fine. It's a 4/5, has high block, has an on-hit effect that you might use sometimes. So there's some pieces like that too. It's just, you always want to put like the best card for every situation in your deck instead of this card that's worse than the other option until they go to deadlock and then it's a bomb. I think it is possible, and we're seeing it, for the meta to successfully warp around unyielding destruction, right? And just either don't play a deck that needs 8 foundations to do its thing, or if you're going to do that, pack specific answers to unyielding, or just decide that you're going to be bad in those matchups, right? Those are your options. And there's enough decks that can fit in that mold, right? They can do one of those 3 things. And like Deku directly answers it, Allura directly answers it. Any Void deck can pack enough like Nonagons and Code Edits and Filled with Doubts and whatnot to directly answer it. Vast Strength works as well on All Life and Earth, I believe those symbols are. So you can take that approach if you really want to do something that's foundation reliant, or you can play, a Pony, a Godzilla, a backup theme deck, an asset theme deck, something that's not going to be devastated if it gets hit by unyielding in the first place. And there's enough stuff like that out there that you can still have a varied and functional format. It's just kind of lame, right? I like getting to those like 7 foundations in the side games where that's where you get the most, I think, back and forth, where both players are capable of playing 3 or 4 moves, but they might not want to. They're capable of blocking a couple things. It just depends on how they play it. Whereas if both players are on 4, it's a much more like swingy, restricted space. But we are where we are, right? And we're just gonna be there until we're not.
I mean, very true. So your game on, just to kind of reel it back into like some of the matches that you played. I really wanted to get some of this general format conversation out. As you've been around for a long time, and you've seen a lot of these formats. I think there's value in having somebody like a competent player to kind of give their insights and opinions on a lot of these metas that it has shifted quite a bit from just the last couple regionals. Maybe not from drawing a blank, Louisville, but I would say I feel like we have at least shifted a little bit further from that, and from the event before Louisville to Louisville, I feel like the meta quite a bit, and not even necessarily off of just turtles. I feel like just seeing a couple more cards, like 1 or 2 turtle cards.
Yeah. AOT3 had a big shift. Turtles has had certain impacts. Right now we have the massive mutant machine deck as a concept that has been perhaps overperforming people's expectations, but we are seeing Hawks do it. With Jacob Johnson just did it with Overhaul. You can do it with Puma. There might be some other ways that people have yet to really mine into. But that is the kind of thing. That card doesn't get blown up by unyielding. That card can help you get up and over, a Rodon or a Deku. Like, okay, flash whatever move you want, Deku. I'll mutant machine one of them, right? So, that card's proven to be very effective out of turtles. There's a couple like other individual cards like that, like code edits and whatnot. But we're not. People's impressions of a set are very often driven by the characters. And Raphael's made a top cuts. Donatello is knocking on the door, but when the characters in the set are mostly just not really expected to go very far, then people are just going to be down on the set as a whole, even if individual cards in the set are pretty good. And then of course you have the symbol thing holding it back too, right? There's a lot of cool cards on the good symbol that I want to play, but it's like Hawks, Donatello, ... Like it gets thin. So
you said you wanted to kind of like get your games in and get up top 16 without anything flashy. I would say that your game, initial top 16 game, was kind of flashy. It was a very quick game. Y'all were done in 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, his deck basically collapsed on him. I don't think he found 9 Titans the entire match. He didn't find unyielding in like a beneficial circumstance to play it the entire match. I don't think he played a rock barrage the entire match. It was kind of crazy how cold his deck ran. And the first game I had a string that probably would have gotten there if I checked better, and then he checked just bad enough not to backswing me, and then I got the win. Game 2, he drew nothing of usefulness and just kind of built foundations, and because of the way his deck is built, the foundations were all blank. Effectively, they either had no text or didn't have text that mattered very much. And even then, right, even against 8 blank foundations in an airship and just Zeke's text box, it still took a bazillion attacks to actually get all the way through and kill him with Frog out, right? So that's just how powerful the text on flipped Zeke is, that he didn't even need his foundations to have text to make me, really have to check, I think, 7 out of 8 5s or something crazy like that. I had to check really, really hot to get there.
And get there you did. It was a pretty impressive match to watch. I mean, regardless of deck running cold, I just felt like it looked like you were kind of in control of most of it the entire time. I do recall watching it and going, wow, Pony is still just a competent, really, really good deck.
Yeah, Pony's good ones still kill just about anything. I pretty openly like to say I think Warchief's the best character in the format. I think it speaks volumes that he was in Antarctica and I still had to be God's favorite idiot to win that match. Like that deck is really, really good. I lost to it in Swiss in 3 games. In those games, I think I resolved 3 Animus shots in every single one of those games, and he was finding his good ones and he wasn't yielding me, and it was I think one of the games I was a 5 check away from surviving to backswing, so the Swiss match was close too. But our decks were running much more at full power in that one.
A very strong deck on face. Is there a certain weakness in the deck that you find like you have to combat, or is it that you're constantly trying to find an answer to the deck?
She doesn't like having enhanced steps taken away, right? That's Deku's bread and butter. That's why Deku's a problem for her, is because he'll take one enhanced step away with his face, and he can effectively do even worse than take an enhanced step away with Aerial Goblin Bolt. And he could even have cheerleaders or like code edits canceling the Blitz on Hunter's Ally. The one exposure is, the pretty decent reliance, especially in the air build, of getting the Hunter's Ally for Frog resolved. You lose a lot of damage if you don't have the Frog down, so devastating loss is a problem, but I didn't see very many of those, if any at all. But that card's really, really good against Pony now because of Frog. Any sort of Blitz cancel or anything that's going to shut down the Hunter's Ally itself or go peel Frogs out of the discard pile, all that stuff's good. If decks run Animus Shot, then you're not allowed to deploy Frog in advance, right? Something that can be nice to do is to Hunter's Ally just to get counters and get the Frog down and then build and pass. But if they have Animus Shot, you're not allowed to do that. So, that's probably the exposed knee joint of the deck, is the enhanced, just the requirement to get enhanced steps and the reliance on Frog. The Earth build gets to have a little more natural damage, can answer Ale Goblin Bolt by playing Kirishima's assistance. So it has some tools to fight those things better, but then, you lose the premier action and backup hate that the air build gets to have. So it's a trade-off.
Yeah, I mean, not having enhanced can feel like a problem for a lot of decks. Let's take it a little more into a casual realm. Did you play any side events or anything after your Top Cut run, or was it kind of just out of time?
Yeah, we were driving, so it was we drove over Friday night, and once we were done on Sunday, it's like, all right, we'll drive home, right? I got, the Top Cut finishes got me 3 sets of prize wall promos, and, after like the first couple, right after like the Tuna Turtles one, there's stuff that's kind of a little old or like not very compelling. AOT promos, not a whole lot of people want. I did get some Killing the Old Ways anyway. Not because they're going to sell for anything, but just because that one does look a lot better than the base card, because the base card is an Attack on Titan card, right? And I mean, so is the promo, but it's got the real, actual like colored cover art, right?
Yeah.
Or, a full page or whatever they call it. So I picked up some of those, but like I'm not a big like shiny promo card hunter or anything. Usually these things just get flipped. So we weren't pining to try, especially because like teams had already started. There wasn't necessarily even a side event to play if we wanted to. Saturday night we just kind of went out for dinner with some Syracuse guys and some other peeps, and then you kind of just hung out there and then went to bed and got up for Sunday for Top Cuts. And so the venue was definitely small for the hopes of a regional having 100 whatever people. I struggle to imagine them fitting the 90 that the event was listed for. I think they probably capped out at like 72 realistically, but it was the nice wooden tables. It was nice having food literally right there, right at the venue that you could get. The noise was a bit, the noise in the room was kind of much. Just the acoustics of the room. There was a lot of having to like talk loudly to hear your opponents, that kind of thing. But overall, it was pretty nice in terms of the venue, and the obvious slops to 2 separate attempts to repair that they gave up on after 20 minutes each time. That yeah, 2 separate cases where they announced there was going to be a repair, and then like 15-20 minutes later, like, yeah, we gave up. There's not going to be a repair. But the first of those was due to not really being able to add people, and after event started, the second one was due to you can't back out a match result after somebody has already ID'd for their final round. But they were just fussing with UGN trying to make things happen that it couldn't do.
Yeah, I've noticed some of that stuff like on the hardware.
Yeah, people show up late to locals all the time, right? And it's just nope. Event started, can't do it. Yeah, I think this one was probably for better and for worse. Like more drivable for more people that play the game on a more casual level and are just like, yeah, we'll just go to the thing, right? Or it was like a guy and his kids, and corralling kids can go. It just took him longer to get to the place. He wasn't thinking of this as like, oh, it's a big tournament. It's at a hotel conference center. We're going to go to this big room and we have to, everything's going to be really tightened down sometime. Oh no, we're going to a local game store. It starts at 2. Okay, we'll be there roughly at 2, or whenever it started, 10 a.m. or whatever. But yeah, ours is pretty stagnated. It's the same 6 dinosaurs, and uh, half of them only occasionally show up, and then we have like 4-ish people that show up half the time, or a little bit more than half the time, and usually we can fire, but sometimes we don't even fire, just especially if people are out of town or whatever.
Event your matches.
I don't know.
Travel to
Selfishly, closer to the border. It's some things in the Toronto area are like a 90-minute drive for us, and so this one was like 4.5 hours, just because it was so far up and north and on the other side of Lake Ontario. And I know that's pretty far from the airport too, which a lot of people begrudge, and a lot of people didn't want to like fly in and do the international thing and do like airport custom stuff and then still have to go another hour to the venue. It had a lot of people grumpy, which it is what it is. I'm sure actual like hotel conference room space in the central Toronto metro area is impossibly expensive. So, this is the best this TO was able to do. Whether or not obviously none of us were searching for space at the time. It's not like any of us can say like, oh, you could have just gone here, right? Like maybe that was the case, maybe it wasn't, but it's all unfortunate where it ultimately ended up.
Okay. If there were one thing that you'd like to see, maybe change in the format, or is there a predicted change happen in the format as we can? Where does everybody?
I'm certainly out on the predictions game. You never know what they're gonna do. It's probably even just like case by case in a given week. How do the shifting tides of the conversation in the meetings or whatever for that week go? Who decides to be louder, right? I'm sure there's people in UVS games that want to ban 10 cards right now, and there's people in the room that are like steadfastly opposed to banning absolutely anything, right? And it's just they will hash it out, and somebody will be louder or more stubborn this time, and then something will or won't happen. Personally, like I alluded to before, I would rather deal with a format where they say if you can't beat Mega Deadlock Rodan decks, that's a skill issue, than play in a format where they say, well, if you don't build a deck that plays on 4 foundations, that's a skill issue, right? So I'd rather Unyielding be gone. I'd rather deal with whatever happens if those big Mega Deadlock decks are good again. Than I've been building stuff to fight those things for 20 years. I don't care, right? I'll figure something out. It's fine. And then secondarily, they could ban Sweeping Daggers at any time, and everybody would understand. It's just the way that card shadow bans things. That card is as much at fault for the Mega Deadlock games as anything, because a lot of the cards that you would use to fight those games, so the like stuff like Farewell Between Friends, for instance, right? Go in their hand and pick something out, or like big 4-check attacks with really impressive effects that can help get you up and over a wall like that. They're all shadow banned because Sweeping Daggers exist. You can't play those cards. Your opponent's going to get them on a 4/3. Right. And so that's sort of quietly, right? It's never going to manifest in like Sweeping Daggers is all over top cuts, because it's a ban list. It's not Sweeping Daggers proactively doing anything besides existing and being good enough to run in, most decks on its symbol, main or side. Don't play Patchwork Babies, idiot. Like, all right, cool. Don't play my EX stun move that was helping me get up and over Rodan's. Great.
Congratulations for finishing.
Thank you.
Are you planning on going to your event?
Yeah, I'm booked for Atlanta. Obviously Buffalo is a 1-hour drive for me, so I will be there unless my work is on fire or something. So I'll be at the next 2 regionals. I don't particularly have to be sweaty at them, so I might decide to play like a known quantity deck that I think is cool, right? Like I might play a Hawks or a Reiner or something like that, or I'll try to run something a little more silly. We'll see.
The upper.
No,
lower
Devron
next one.
Racer does not abide by the rule of you must operate on 4 foundations. So no, right? That
Dang.
is, I'm still you still have to play by the rules, right? I'm just gonna try to find something that like at least can copium into its way into believing that it's playing by those rules, right?
Perfect.
But Devron is not. He invariably needs like 7 or 8 foundations just to pass the checks on his good kill strings, right? So it's
right. Yeah, I thought that thing was so funny when you played it in Denver. That deck left an impression on me, just because I went, huh, this is weird to play again.
yeah, he does some neat stuff. Is speaking of patchwork babies, right? I think that I went 0-3-1 at that event, and a lot of that was getting my patchwork baby sweeping daggered, and I thought I'd be more able to handle that than I was. And without access to that, it's even he already had trouble with the defensive decks, and without patchwork babies, it just gets even worse. So, and he hasn't gotten any useful cards since, really. Like Wingnuts is okay, but he's still waiting on some like additional support, really. Again, nothing is going to save him from unyielding, no matter what. But in a hypothetical future, if that's not around, I think the Fire Order 3 to Foundation could be really good for him. Turn 1 sploof into 2 spoofs is huge.
Yeah,
Absolutely enormous, right?
yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. I was like, there's a world.
Yeah.
Well, Tim, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Really appreciate you on,
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
and definitely taking the time to talk to us. Appreciate you, as you know, or you may not know. Big fan. I'm known among my group for glazing too often. Your name will come up in a thing. I'm like, bro, Tim Keefe's really good, bro. I don't know what you mean. And so I will have to probably put a glazing Tim Keefe warning at the. But
Fair enough.
I really appreciate you talking with me, man, and can't wait to see what you do.
Thanks. Yeah, no problem.
So you played Overhaul. Had great success. Godzilla. Is there anything in your deck that you thought maybe, or possibly thought about putting in your deck that might have helped with Godzilla?
I put Tattered Costume in my side, and that side again was pretty okay. He had a lot of answers to assets though, so like that's not the best answer to the action. There's not any form cancels really in the game for it. So it's kind of like uninteractable combo a little bit. So there wasn't a lot that I could put in under the life symbol to stop that. Like, I'm trying to think. Like, I had Incredible Display on my side, does not help me in that. Well, I put that in just to like cancel the response to cancel my asset. I can't really think of anything else really that like.
Just a really tough matchup, I'd imagine.
I just die from full for 3 moves because my character has 7 less health for no reason. We have the same hand size. I just have 7 less health for free, and he gives 1 extra damage than my character does. My character has to flip a foundation to do almost what his character does for free.
Yeah, there's some design choices there that have seen more characters becoming prevalent. I mean, Godzilla's been in the meta for.
I think he's almost topped every single event since it came out for 2 years now. Like, or he's been like in the top 3 played decks at every single event.
Almost definitely. I feel like I always run into always a talk of the meta when you talk to anybody that's been in the scene for a little bit or going to events. Godzilla is always.
Yeah, at Louisville, I played Amajiki underwater, and I lost my winning into tops to another Godzilla. And I had fought 4 that tournament. Like, I fought 4 back-to-back. It was like, I won one, I lost one, I won one, I lost one. I was like, and I just, like, was so sick of just seeing action card 5 attacks. Because, like, that's what all 4 of them were doing. And I'm like, okay, cool.
That leads me to another good question. How are you feeling about the meta right now? What do you think of the current play patterns that you're?
I think it's crazy to say that now that we have like 12 sets in the game, it's less diverse than it was in set 1 My Hero with 1 set. it's crazy to look at a Top Cut and it be less diverse than uh, a one set format, or like decks doing different things. So it's not healthy. I mean, it's like there's like obvious problems, and like doesn't feel like they're pushing towards fixing any of it. And they might think like, oh, a future set will help, but like it's not helping now, and so they're just killing their game currently, which just sucks.
So, is there what would you really pinpoint as a like an issue with the format? Like if you had to kind of like condense it into a thought where like, hey, if we hit this, or if we change this, or put out a card that does it would really change the format in a way to open it up to more characters. What do you think that?
I think I don't want to say just like ban the action to get rid of Godzilla or whatever. I think it's the character that's the problem, not really the action. Like the action makes the turn 2 degenerate, but the character giving the extra plus to checks is really what makes it like the over the top. So maybe limit that a little bit. Maybe limit the damage or something like that. Because I think if the character didn't give 3 damage to everything and you took like 3 attacks, well, character lives from taking 20 damage. They don't live from taking 29 for free. Yeah, I just think that the biggest issue is like the 34 health. Like you can't play a control deck, expect to survive 3 turns of that, and you can't ever do 34, even with poking. Like, oh, I poked you twice. You have 26 life still, or 25 life still, and I have to do that through like you having +2 to all your checks to block. And if I fail my kill turn, I auto lose the game. Like, or you just reset me, and then I have to restart trying to survive for 3 more turns. It's just like inherently not healthy. That deck isn't. And that's not the only thing. Like, sitting across from a Hawks and stay saying, "Oh, I'm gonna play 9 attacks with +7/+7 on them on you on like turn 3." Like that's also like not amazingly fun to play against. There's not a lot of answers in the game, especially after rotation. I don't know if there's anything that really stops Equipment Heist from doing that. I guess Hawks rotating, that'll stop it. But and that's not even like one of the meta decks, I would say. Like a lot of people like it, but I wouldn't put that as like a degenerate. I think that one's fine to play against. Because you can like breaker it and just stop it if you really need to. I really only honestly playing, I did not feel any match was unwinnable except against Godzilla on turn 2. So honestly, the most unhealthy part is that, I think.
Godzilla, big thumbs down in the chat.
And you have to like construct your deck to play against it too. And like, I shouldn't have to put 20 cards in my deck in order to play one matchup when there are 150 playable characters, right?
Yeah.
Like,
well,
well, 150 characters, not play. Sorry, wrong words.
I'm not you trying to play Leonardo, and they make it so hard to get a +1 on stats, but Godzilla's out here. Let's get +3 to everything for free.
Yeah, I know, right? And has 3 less health.
Yeah, 3 less health.
No plus to check. No, it's resetting boards.
It's resets boards. They put him on a carry. They put him on symbols that don't mill, but they want you to mill.
I don't know where they're testing at exactly. Like, are they just testing set inside set, and then maybe future stuff with current set, and not what's happening in the current meta? And that is like the most important part of OP, right? Or like testing is like you should be testing what's happening now, not what the problem is a year later. Because like that doesn't even matter if your game doesn't exist a year later, right? So you need to worry about what's happening now more than the future, because you can change that before it gets printed.
Yeah, I wonder if they take any of these like competitive decks. Like I actually, that's a good question that I kind of want to ask. What like where the brackets are, because it seems like you could take most of the people playing in the topping lists. You could use those to structure out your next couple of sets and kind of see like where they're coming from and like what might be a problem, but also if they're playing on an RNG, might not even as.
I'm pretty sure their sets are like pre-designed like years ahead of time, and
Yeah,
that like
we know that it's at least, I want to say, a 6 to 8 month time, if not longer.
I think it's longer. Pretty sure.
I don't. That's actually not a question I've asked, unfortunately, and I feel like I now want an interview with some of the R&D team. Like not as like a malicious thing. I just like now my brain's working. Like the gears are turning.
Yeah, so I know Barrett. I know he's on the team. He's one of my friends I've known since I was 12. I know J Ray pretty well. Like I know the team. I don't specifically talk about this game with them because I'm like I would have words and I don't care to say them that much to them because like they should already know this stuff. So and they probably hear it from a million people. So me saying it doesn't really matter, but it's nice to voice my opinion somewhere about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the issue I have currently is that this meta has been the same since AOT 2, it feels. Like, if you looked at the top tables, it was like the next 8 down, it was like Peaks, Reiner, Miyako. It's the same decks that I've seen since, I don't know, 2023, maybe 2024. I think the issue with this game is you can't take the silver bullet approach. Since it's a 12 symbol game, 12 color game, and you can't off symbol. Okay, overall 12 symbol game. You can't just throw infinity on the best silver bullets and throw them into the game. They tried that with this action card that's kind of annoying to play against. It's good that it exists. Go with that as like a good card. But like if you put a silver bullet, it forces your hand into those symbols or the problem deck. And now that we're doing attune symbols, it's please hope my character that I want to play has that one symbol on the card, the one card that it answers the action card of Godzilla or something like that. Like an equivalent of that card, equipment heist card that kicks a card out of my opponent's card. So something along those lines. I think the character card Godzilla, it needs to go in some form. It could exist still. Like, give it 4 less health and no damage pump. And yeah, you still have a meta-defining character. I think Rodan will always be a problem. Just in a defensive stance. If you don't have a way of playing late game in your deck, which could come down to like you should just play cards in your deck to be able to handle Rodan, maybe. But he does give quite a bit of speed. Like when I played against the deck, I lived at 1 on my game 3 because I thought ahead and I gained 1 life 3 times against his attacks, and he couldn't kill me by 1. So like I had to do math like 6 attacks ahead of time when he played 5 or whatever, or 5 attacks ahead. And that comes down to like Rodan is just plays the base game the best, and I don't want to like hit every character from those decks. Like he doesn't kill people that quick, so that deck's not really like the worst to play against, I would say. So I really think if Godzilla went, the game would be healthier. Like maybe the equipment heist decks go crazy, like they're like a high risk, high reward deck. So like because you're filling your deck with so much garbage to like play that combo. Like that's 4 actions, probably 8 to 10 assets. So you have 14 cards in your deck that don't ever get played except for when you play your cool 1 card. So there is a world where that's like fine. I don't know. I think the only game that I thought was like unplayable was against Godzilla. And I think I'll believe that for a while until they show me. And if every set's like Turtles, then I'll never see a character again that strong. So
Yeah.
I'm like, oh well. I guess I wait another year and a half before Godzilla's gone.
Well, wait till
I have seen a lot of.
Hopefully they just make one that does like +6 damage and +2 to your check with the new Godzilla set coming out beginning of next They just dump
Yeah,
it.
static. Put the action card on a static on the Godzilla. Actually,
I think that's a good
that's what I
idea.
want. That's what I want.
Let's just ramp it to 11. What is your opinion on the recent come up of Dark Deku? Deku 6?
So, okay, here's the thing about Dark Deku. The format of Dark Deku, Godzilla, and Super Control existing in the exact same format is that you have to hope you roll a dice on what deck you pick to play against one or maybe two of those. You can't tech for all three. You'd have to play like 80 cards and hope you draw the answers when you play against that deck. The issue I have with Deku is that it is uninteractable. Uninteractable things have always gotten banned in the past. I've been playing since 2015. I've played every uninteractable deck that's existed from 2018 to 2020 or 2017 to 2020. I played a lot of decks that killed you on turn one. I played a lot of decks that could just lock my opponent completely out of the game. There's just so many decks that I've played that it's almost Quan Chi level, which I don't know if you played back then when Quan Chi existed.
I've heard about Quan Chi a little bit. I've heard about a lot of channels of retro. I actually my first set was Yu Yu Hakusho / Cowboy. Played in that era. Like those were my first couple of sets, and that was me. And then I really played a lot during it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so during that time, Punch and Judy was the big deck, I guess. That I played that at the first Reno PTZ. Like the set came out, I went to the next event. Me and two others, they copied my exact deck and threw a random character on top of it. And then Keenan got like second at Worlds or third at Worlds with it. Playing it in Bad Pro. So like that combo was super degenerate, and like if that existed nowadays, like they banned that in retro, and that is less stats than I'm seeing on attacks nowadays. That's so that enhance is 4 forms of Deku, right? You had to find all 8 pieces and be able to mill them all into your discard pile and play them all on your move to get the same stats as 4 more tap 6 cards. And that's banned. The actions are banned. So, like, Deku is very strong. Don't get me wrong. It didn't win just because Godzilla exploded it. That I heard. Or it was a mirror match, someone killed it, and then it got second still. I just... those are really the only 2 problems. I guess if I called Deku a problem. If Godzilla's gone and you can tech to play against just the Deku, though, I don't think it's as big of a problem. But if everyone has to sit there and try and survive on turn 2 for half of their games and then try and play to deadlock for their other half of the games, you're just doomed in your deck building. Because, like, oh, I put 10 deadlock cards in my deck for this Deku format. Oh, I played against 3 Godzillas. They never saw more than 4 Foundation. So it's like, it's really hard when the meta is complete opposites. When there's 2 monsters in the game that are complete opposite decks. The issue is like you get rid of one of them, the other one either becomes a super big problem, or people can finally tech against it to answer it, right? So how do you pick which one to do that and what format you want the game to be? That's kind of above my pay grade, but that's my thought on Deku. I think that it is easily bannable. It has 5 symbols in an attuned format that they now have symbols on. So he has the biggest card pool of any character in the game for all the answers in the game. So
yeah, I feel like now we're seeing, because like for a minute it was Faj and Fury trying that out.
Yeah, Hang 10's the new big one.
And like Hang 10's now like so like I feel like they with 5 symbols, as much as I'm a huge Deku stan, I collect Deku stuff. He just feels like he has too many tools in his box. Like he shows up to work day 1 and he got like his toolbox is massive and it only gets big.
it's cool because like in the show he has a million different powers, right?
Sure.
But you can't be too thematic that way. You can't be broken into show and in the card game.
Gotta pick one.
Too far, you know. You can't go like too far into it. And I don't know if the tune symbol is the real problem or if it's just like the attacks that were given to him are just like too uninteractable. Because there's a lot of resets in the game. There's a lot of ways to get the stats back to normal, but like there's an attack that says you can't do anything during it, and then there's another attack that is flash. And almost all the resets are enhances. I think they showed off those cards from the new set, the ones you can do stuff for momentum. Oh, like what's that? Yeah. So the one that resets response speed to 3 damage. I think that mechanic alone should calm Deku down because like any of the characters from that set can do that. I don't think you even have to be from that set. You just have to play any of the blitz attacks that have that attention. The biggest issue I have is that like I think every deck in the format, with what the format is right now, will have to play a attack from that set in some form that has tension. Just for the fact of like set something to 3 is just so strong at response speed. And there's no interaction for it for Deku. That is the key. So I honestly think that alone should cool Deku down a bit. Should.
Yeah. Possibly.
I don't think Deku is bannable, if that's what we're thinking. Like I'd rather see a Godzilla ban than a Deku ban in like 900 years. I'll play against 100 Dekus if I fight one in my brain.
That's fair.
At least I gotta play the game for 4 turns.
At least. Yeah, that's
I
fair.
gotta throw my moves and give it stats at least.
Yeah, whereas he just got like stomped out instead.
Yeah.
All right, well, the overall very sick. Glad you brought a really glad discussion. How'd you enjoy the event overall? Give me some personal info.
All right, so my trip was really long. I left the Wednesday at like noon. I sat in an airport for 7 hours layover. I got into Michigan at like 10:30. I went to bed. We woke up the next day, got breakfast, drove to Toronto, or an hour past Toronto. It was an hour farther away. So that was like 5 hours of a drive into chilling for a while. We went to some really good restaurants. It was a really good time. Like I had an amazing time there. We went to, drove into Toronto, went to a couple restaurants. It was good. Venue, the hotel was super nice that we stayed at. Everyone was really nice there. The venue was really cool. It was like a tavern. So that was kind of sick. I like those medieval themed stuff. There's restaurants in the venue. That was kind of cool. At least people had food options there. So you didn't have to have like a really long lunch break where everyone has to go find somewhere to be.
Yeah, because I think in I don't know how it was in Louisville, but their kitchen was staff on.
Yeah, I remember that. I had to walk all the way down away to like a Charlie's or something like that is what I went to. Yeah. Anyone that didn't have a car was kind of screwed there for the hour lunch break they gave. Then my flight back, though, was the same distance. Like, I drove back to Michigan the 5 hours and then hung out there for a bit, played some DC Deck Builder, went home. Yeah.
So, good time with the friends. As most of these events, I haven't had a bad time at one of these events personally. Most of the time, it's out with everyone. You got to do a little bit of winning and then.
Yeah.
Is there something about like maybe the venue or the event wave magic wand and change?
I would say they should have made it closer to the airport. It was a 50-minute Uber or an hour to the airport, I think, is what my friend said.
That's
And like that makes it pretty untravelable.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of things about Toronto being expensive, as far as like event stuff, as like the main excuse. Not sure how.
I think that's why we were at a different venue that was farther away and in like a suburb. It was in like Ottawa, I believe, was the name of it. Ottawa sounds right to me. I think.
I have no idea. Wasn't
But
there.
yeah, I think that's the name of it, Ottawa. But it was a good time. Like it was a nice smaller town. Just like it felt like a giant locals. Kind of felt like when I went to the UK Nats a while ago, like a long time ago. Um, but yeah, I'd never been to Canada, so it was fun. Honestly, I was pretty impressed with like the 50 that we had for Canada. Honestly,
Yeah, I was
15,
kind of
16,
expecting it to be
15?
like a 30 per.
Like the last
We
one.
had Louisville. We had like over 200,
Yeah,
which is awesome. I love seeing some of these numbers back up. So I'm hoping Atlanta will be.
I think Atlanta will be a pretty good size.
Uh,
I will not be at Atlanta, but I think it'll be a pretty good size.
not going to Atlanta.
I am not traveling for the game until Worlds
Ah, okay. Cool.
because I already have my points now. So like that got me to day 2, and I am gonna play some other card games for a little bit until they do fix something. If they fix something, maybe I'll go to Buffalo. But I do not want to go to another tournament and play against multiple Godzillas in the same weekend.
Ah, so you're doing Riftbound.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely playing Riftbound.
Nice.
I'm helping demo the game, so I will be playing that one for sure.
Let's go ahead and we'll go ahead and wrap it up, and I'll stop taking up all your time. So, well, thank you so much, Jake, for interviewing with me today. It's been an absolute delight to talk to. Congratulations on our finish in Toronto. Any shout outs, anything you'd like to say before we're in the spot?
Yeah, I got a couple shout outs. I'm gonna shout out Trading Post out in Michigan. They're a new store opening up. That'll be pretty hype. And then shout out MGLA, obviously. Gotta support the team. Yeah, that's about it. Thanks for having me on. I like watching you guys' stuff, so I was like, oh yeah, I'll totally do an interview when you message me.
Well, we really appreciate that, man. Like you said, thank you so much. You have a great rest. Once on play this week with another Top Cut interview. Later.
What's up, everybody? We are here in Toronto with one of our finalists here. Your name is?
Cory. Also, Daddy's Belt Uwu on every Discord, I think.
There you go. Now, we've actually talked to you before, Cory,
Yep.
right back in, it was Nats, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and you played Recovery Girl then?
Yep. Committed
Okay.
war crimes.
Yeah, I remember that. What did you play today?
I played Izuku Midoriya on the move. That is what the goggles are for, because when we're moving fast, we have to make sure our eyes are safe.
There you go. Always safety.
Yes, sir.
Now, Recovery Girl, kind of a longer game deck. This plan's kind of a longer game deck. Is that kind of what you enjoy to play? Is more of a longer game style?
Not usually, but I check too many threes to try to kill people.
Okay, that's fair.
So.
That makes sense. What was your choice for Deku specifically? Like, why him over some of the other, like Rodon maybe?
I've been a Deku gamer since day one. Me and Mitch slammed deck lists for Deku, like pretty much since he came out. Which shout out Mitch. That's where I got the deck list that I edited to do this. And yeah,
Awesome.
he's cool. And
Yeah.
then sometimes you can just murderize people.
Yeah, that's fair. Now you doing the classic like Phantom Threat, give it a ton, make it flash. Is
Oh,
that
yeah.
kind of game plan?
It's the only way to do it.
Yeah. How's Hang 10 changed the deck?
It lets you draw more cards. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but like it's good.
Yeah.
It's one of those necessary evils.
Yeah, that's fair. How did your Swiss run go? Any particular matchups that were notable for you?
Yeah. So my whole Swiss was round one. I don't remember. And then I played two ponies, which I ate alive. A Rodan that I ate alive.
Mm-hmm.
Justin Birch on Hanj 1,
Okay.
who he ended up misplaying, so we ended up tying. And then Wub, who kicked my teeth in.
Yeah.
It was not good. And then that was it, right? Yeah.
I think that's 6. Yeah. Yeah. I also played Wub and it was not close. So that deck's crazy. Zeke is a character for sure. What about top cuts? You got second place, losing out to Godzilla, but everything else you played, how did those ones go?
So Kevin was really close game 1. I got Fallen Titans like 9 times in a row, and then game 2 and 3 I said that's not going to happen. And then we milled them out game 3, so we stayed true to the way. And then Tim was also awful. I had to build one game 1.
Oh
I
no.
killed him. And then game 2, he got me with my pants down. Game 3, we had a much longer game. I was either going to mill him out, or I needed a Hang 10, a Fajin, because he had 2 resets and a cancel for, I don't know, whatever tattered costume cancels, whatever that shit is. But we got there.
Okay. And then last round was against Calvin. He was playing the Godzilla. I know that game 1 was kind of a little bit back and forth, it seemed like, and then game 2 was kind of a little bit more rough. How did that kind of go?
Yeah. I don't think any of the games were back and forth. I think I got my shit pushed in.
That's fair.
I slapped these goggles on. I said it's manifest destiny that I lose. Godzilla players deserve less. And then I got my ass handed to me. There was no kill lines.
Yeah.
Didn't even wipe the board. Just, I don't know, drew 6s, check 6s. I said, well, that kills you.
Yeah, that's fair. Sometimes that's kind of how it goes, especially against Godzilla. I'm the biggest proponent of Godzilla. Is such a pain to play against. He's just like, gets so much for free.
He is the entire reason that my Nats deck list existed.
Yeah, that's fair. What do you think about the event in total? Like being up here in Canada, the venue, all that stuff?
The event was super cool. All the staff were hella cool. Coming up to Canada was nice. It is a smaller event, but it was a fucking meat grinder.
Yeah.
Definitely. And yeah, like overall everything ran smooth. It was all pretty cool. No fire alarms.
Yeah, that's a big change. Do you have any? Are you planning on going to Atlanta?
Yeah, probably.
Do you have any idea what you're planning on? Is it going to stick with Deku, we think?
If they don't touch him, then yes.
Yeah.
Or if we ever get a fucking answer for when Dorian's legal, I will be playing that.
That's fair. Alrighty then. Well, I guess I got one final question for you, a little bit off topic here. Do you have a favorite Pokemon?
Yeah, Metagross.
Metagross? That is a good one. All right. Well, thank you very much for taking the time. Your name one more time?
Cory, Daddy spelled Ulu, Cody Schmelson. Yeah.
All right. It. Well, hey, thanks for taking the time to talk to us, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice.
All right, everybody. It is finally time. We are here with our champion for the Toronto regional event here. What's your name?
Calvin Tahan. Hey, glad to be here. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I remember we had you back in Albuquerque, right? You were in top 4. Yeah,
that was a lot of fun. Same deck, different build, but yeah, it's a whole new format here with the Turtles cards, and I'm really proud that I was able to win this time.
For sure. Yeah, that's kind of something I wanted to ask you about real quick. Were there any like huge differences with the Turtles and everything that's come out since Albuquerque that you really made to the deck that kind of felt better than it did last time?
Well, I didn't really make any changes because of the Turtles meta per se, or because I perceived certain cards to be relevant. In fact, I played 0 cards from that set in my deck in anywhere in the side deck or main deck at all.
Okay.
But it was more so just the internal thinking I did, and the results of when I lost in top 4 in Albuquerque, I really felt I guess, I mean, not tilted or disappointed or anything like that, but I felt like that could have been the one that I won there. I really felt like if I just drawn a hand with I in top 4 I had Travis fully committed and tapped out and dead to rights, and I just whiffed and drew no attacks, and I felt like that just could have been the turn
Yeah.
And I knew if I beat him there that I was for sure going to win the finals, and that didn't happen. So I was kind of hung up on the deck, and I was looking at a lot of my my card choices and my approach to the deck. And I mentioned in that interview how I kind of catered it to be a lot of like you kind of create luck yourself by playing a lot of 6 diffs. And I think for that event I played 20, which was over half my foundations were all 6s.
Mhm.
So when you play cards like Titan Glyph and Determined Advance, they were pretty much safe. And for this advance, I kind of just from getting the reps in, I thought that wasn't really as necessary. I still played a lot. I think I played 16, but I cut all the vanilla 6 checks. Like the cards that I played that had good block mods but didn't really have any text in the stage. I cut
Right.
those for some 5 diff foundations that I thought were just I guess in a way I did perceive the meta a little bit because I played the Chinatown card, which I thought was really, really strong against 9 Titans and the front side of Deku and Hawks. And these are all decks and cards that I thought would be played a lot. And so in that way, I made my checks a little more vulnerable, but I played like a steadier build. And I mean, obviously, it really paid off. I think once you learn how to pilot the deck, it becomes a lot less about relying on the first check of your turn to be a 6 and more about you get to manipulate so many of the future checks that come the rest of the turn that it doesn't even matter if you check a 3 early on.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I guess I don't think we actually said, but for anybody that doesn't know, you played Godzilla both in Albuquerque and here at this event. So when you talk about manipulating checks, that's just kind of what he does. So yeah, that's really cool. That was something that I noticed is when I kind of looked at your deck after Albuquerque, and I was like, oh, there's just a lot of cards that are kind of don't do anything, but they're just here because they're 6s, and I thought that was interesting because I'd never really seen a build like that before. But I do agree that there are, because I've had some friends play it, and that previous deck, and seeing that there are just times where those cards don't do anything, and maybe you need something else does feel good. And that Chinatown card is extremely good.
Yeah, it's pretty. When it's good, it's great. So it's auto win a lot of the time, and that's kind of what you want to look for in card games, where you're trying to exploit certain strategies. And if you have a way you can just auto win versus a large amount of the meta, like all the backup decks, basically, why wouldn't you do that? Kind of, it's my thought.
Absolutely. Now, real quick, I kind of want to go over some of your tournament run. Swiss, of course, we started that on Saturday. Now, your first round was actually against one of our members, Steph, and she was talking about that game she was playing Ryu, and said that it was actually kind of close. She almost got it there. Was that a interesting match for you there? Had you played against Ryu before?
I had not played against Ryu before. It was extremely close. In fact, pretty much every single match I played day one was extremely, extremely close, except for the bubble. Ironically, the last match of the day was the easiest. It was Pony, and it's just a matchup that I've tested against and I labbed a lot. And Pony can't really beat you. You just 2-shot them.
Yeah.
But I played so many, like, I guess what I perceive as road decks or like older decks. I mean, I played a Mirio, obviously, in day one, and then I played Overhaul on top 4 of day 2. So it was like I was playing from formats past, and both of those decks were decks that I had very minimal experience about because they were popular and they were tier 1 when I was first learning how to play and first coming into the game. So for me, those are always decks like, oh, I can't really beat those. I'll just stay away from those. And they kind of phased out, and I kind of got better. So it's ironic that I played both of them. But yeah, it was yeah, that Ryu and a lot of the decks. This was like the closest tournament I've ever played, aside from the back half of day 2 of Top Gun, where I just steamrolled the finals. And but other like top 4 match, our match was like 12 minutes long, but we like both one shot each other. But like game 1, game 2, and game 3 it was just instant kill, and it was
Yeah.
I think I just like, I guess to answer your question is in testing like I have, and I guess every player has to some degree. I mean, there's a known meta, right? But I have like a top 5 canonical deck in my mind, right? Where I feel like the really, really good decks right now are Beast Titan, because Wub won literally the last event with it. He just went undefeated in Swiss and won.
Yep.
And then again, he went undefeated in Swiss this event. Like I think that's the strongest deck still. There's that deck. I don't think Pony is that good of a deck. Truly, I don't have a lot of respect for it, but it's very popular and it does really well. So that's a deck I was looking out for. Deku is what I thought would be the strongest deck for sure. A reason I played Zilla. But we have these lists of deck, right? And there's some other backup strategy you can play against. The cool new decks that can play Equipment Heist, I think, are super strong just based off that card. And I think Hawks is the probably strongest. So there's a pile of, and all the Godzilla characters like Godzilla, Rodin, and Ghidorah, I think are just all tremendous still. So those are all decks in my head when I think of like tier 1 decks to test for. And so I had a lot of exposure for those decks and a lot of practice against those decks. And I played a lot of other decks day one, and it was really challenging. Like I said, everybody brought me to game 3. I lost. I think I won. Okay, so people have said that to win an event, you have to get lucky. You have to be extremely good, but you also have to get pretty lucky. I definitely got lucky in my top 8 match against Ryan. I was not supposed to win. And we can talk about that more in future questions. I know this is a very long answer to this question.
You're good.
I had to get lucky to beat him. But day one, I got, in air quotes, lucky a lot. I won, I think, every single dice roll day one. But I lost every single game 1. Except for the pony one, like I said. Like I was like, my back was where it was to the wall the entire event, and I had to adapt. I had to adapt against Ryu, and I had to adapt against Miria, and it was like it really felt like it was just because I perceive my deck and Godzilla to be so good and so strong, but I was truly fighting for my life day one. I could not believe that I topped. So I guess that's the answer to that question. Is no, I didn't really adequately prepare for the lesser known decks, and they definitely took me by surprise, and I definitely had to after a game, sit up in my chair and adapt my strategy and figure out what was going on. And that took a lot for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that adaptation is very important, especially when you're playing against those rogue decks, because it does seem like those are the ones that kind of catch you off guard when you're like, oh, I'm ready for all of these, all the meta. I'm ready for the beasts. I'm ready for this, and then you just get hit with Ryu, and you're just like, well, I've got to figure out how this works, and then I got to figure out how to beat it. But like you kind of mentioned, let's go ahead and talk about top cuts a little bit. I know you mentioned your top 4 match was pretty quick, but how did it go against Ryan? What was going on there?
Yeah, so Ryan's my best friend. We live in the same town, and I play this game because of him. I guess backstory for those who don't know, we're both competitive Yu-Gi-Oh players, or in my case, former, and in his case, mostly former. At one point in time, I was the best player in the world in Yu-Gi-Oh! And at one point in time, he was the best player in the world in Yu-Gi-Oh! He won a really big event in Australia. I won one in Virginia. But since those days are long since gone, and I switched over to Universus just because I didn't really want to. I mean, it started where I didn't really want to travel and play any game competitively, and I kind of phased out of Yu-Gi-Oh! But I wanted a game that I thought had good mechanics and a rewarding, I guess, player base, really. Something that was friendly and welcoming, and that's what Universus was for me, and I ended up falling in love with it, blah, blah, blah. And now I travel, ironically, to the events. I guess I can't help myself, but I love the game. It's my favorite card game I've ever played, so that's why I'm here. But ultimately, I play it because of him. And so at home, it's mostly just us testing over and over and over again. So most of my testing was done versus Hawks deck, and I think previous versions of Hawks, where he's that really controlly deck and he just wants to he's a combo deck. He wants to stall until he can play the focus attack and just kill you. That's why I rotated it out. And now there's not really, I mean, for a couple months, there was just no way Hawks could ever win. He tried some patch baby stuff for a little bit, but it just never really connected. But it was just that impenetrable speed, debuff. And that's a matchup and decks like that. I mean, Deku runs similarly now where you just want to stall until you can win.
Yep.
Decks like those can't beat Zilla because if you just wall up on 12 foundations, he can just blow up. But this new Hawks deck, I think, kills you on 3 foundations pretty much every single turn. I think it has 2 modes, kind of like it can turtle up and still become impenetrable, but if it can just draw Equipment Heist and play on running 3s, and it's just true. I mean, I think at this point, if he had a little more time to fine tune it, I think he would have won the event. I think it's the strongest deck in the game currently, honestly. But in testing, I mean, I think it was 30-20. I think I was so ridiculously unfavored to win, and including the fact that he was higher in me than Swiss, so he got to choose to go first, which he did, and he won game 1 very easily. And it took a lot for me to win the match. And by a lot, I mean I had to get incredibly lucky. I had to cheese him game 2. Basically, and just kill him turn 1, on running 5s. I just had no choice. He built, I just had to try, and it worked. And then game 3, there was a critical turn where I had to nuke. and just hope he bricked on attacks/assets because his deck played a lot of 7 deck diffs. And that's my only condition is if I nuke and he draws a hand of 5 cards and picks up feathers and he just can't play any foundations, maybe I win. There's like a 20% chance that happens, and it happened. And he like built one past. And that's what it takes sometimes. You had to get lucky. But I, for sure, that was, I'm never supposed to win there. So, but, once I did, I think the rest was kind of academic. I think my deck was positioned really, really well into the rest of the top, the remaining players in the top 4/6, or, whoever would have won in their respective brackets. I felt really good. But I do think that Hawks deck is incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw it. I watched the finals, or at least part of the finals for OCE, I think it was, where it was the first time I saw that deck, where they just turn 1, built 3 foundations, turn 4, played 4 attacks, and built 4 assets, and just went and killed Reiner on turn 3, and I was like, this is insane. But
Yeah, it
it's
absolutely is. Yeah.
It's kind of crazy for sure. Talking about just kind of going crazy though, I rewatched the finals of this event against Cory Nelson, and I mean, he just kind of dismantled Deku. Like it seemed like everything kind of fell into its place. He never really got a full stage, and just kind of blew it up. The one contentious kind of point was you had to take an extra turn to kill him in game 2. Because choosing not to commit the street hero, was that just kind of not realizing exactly what that one did, or was that a conscious choice, or what happened there?
That was the Deku matchup, I think, is. I guess this is all on the record. I love this game, and I enjoy transparency. I don't, and I mean this respectfully. I don't think Cory played very well. And I don't think that's his fault. Maybe I just think he didn't know the matchup. I think maybe he either thought I don't know him well at all. I don't. All I know about Cory is that he has a ton of tops, and all of those tops are gained from kind of quote unquote locking your opponent in jail. Like he's known for these recovery girl decks and these stall decks, and he does extremely well in complex game state. And so I think that he maybe wrote Godzilla off as a deck. It's just gonna nuke you, and there are no complex game states. So it wasn't worth testing, or maybe the people he did test with weren't good, or maybe I don't know. Either he wrote it off or he had a bad concept of the matchup. But at no point, what's supposed to happen and what happened. My main testing team is Ryan, and Mitchell and Wub. So the 3 people from the Where's Wub podcast, if you're familiar with that. I'm not on the podcast, but we all play together. So those are my testing partners. And Mitchell loves Deku, and he's played Deku for I think 3 events now, and he topped the last one. He got 10th in this one, I think. I unfortunately beat him day 1 as well. But we tested that crazy, and he identified that Godzilla was really the only matchup that Deku can't really beat, and has an untenable time against. And we tried really hard to get it as close to 50-50 as we could, and I think the best we got was 70-30 in favor of Godzilla. But the way Cory was playing, it was 95-5. I don't think that there was ever a chance, even a point where I was close to losing. People kept asking why I didn't form, because he was never close to representing lethal. You're supposed to what you're supposed to do in the matchup is halfway through, you make an attack 12-12 and you hit me and put me at 24, because Deku needs I think 15 foundations to do one attack in 34-34, and he never even tried to chip damage me. And it was there was no pressure at all, so why would I nuke? Right. And so going back to the street hero thing, what I was trying to do was just clear, if he was never going to present a threat and pretend that he was either going to threaten game, I was just going to chip away at the amount of potential resources he could have. So there was a game, I think it was either game 1 or game 2, where I threw out a Kraken, or maybe it was a Titan Glyph early in my string, and intentionally got Aries Smiles, knowing he had the telegraphed Aries Smiles, because he only plays 3 or 4, and getting hit by it on purpose when there's no threat of a repush from him. If I build past, he can't kill me. He literally, the math's not there. It doesn't matter. I got rid of an Aries Smiles. So in this scenario, I committed and froze a card in his stage that I perceived to be more valuable in the long game, and I made him use the one-time use of the street hero, which is a flip cost, just to clear it permanently. And so that was the logic there. I think hindsight's 2020. I think I had true game if I had just committed it and killed him. But I can't know all the variables until after. In my mind, in the moment, I thought there was just value in clearing the threat permanently. and then just doing the same thing again next turn without that street hero being an option, which is what happened.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly what happened, and that makes perfect sense. Because I know that the casters mentioned something about it, and so I was curious on it, and that makes perfect sense. So, yeah, that's awesome. I guess one last thing here. Well, I guess two, one real one and then one real short one here.
Yeah.
Any thoughts, particularly on the first Canadian regional? How did you have the event all together, like put together, and any thoughts on that, venue wise, anything like that?
Yeah, I think I'll just say that. Well, I guess I didn't know this was the first one, so that's pretty cool to be the only Canadian champion. But I I love playing this game. So any store, and I said this in Albuquerque too, any store that hosts the event and has the players come through and creates a space for us to do this, that's all I care about. Do I think that it could have been a better, more central location? Absolutely. This was marketed as Toronto. We were like an hour out of it. It was
Mhm.
kind of rough on the Uber from the airport. But the people who like this game and are going are playing this game are going to make those sacrifices. I love the space. I thought the store was good. I thought the event was well ran. It was really good having Levi there from Universus this time to ensure that we all got our prizing and that every player got what they were supposed to get for signing up. I know sometimes in the past events there were mix-ups about that or them
Yep.
running out of promos, and Levi was there to make sure that didn't happen. It was really, really rewarding to be in top 8 and to have the store, on site have sold out of all the quote unquote good promos and the new promos that we wanted. And then Levi to be like, oh, hey, like I foresaw this happening. I held exactly a place up for each member of the top 8 because you guys were promised that in the article as your prize support. So, well, all that said, I thought I was really, really, really good. Really, really happy about it for sure.
That's awesome. That's great to hear, and I'm glad to hear about the promos as well, because that has been an issue in the past. So glad to hear we're working to get that corrected as well. I always love to. Yeah, that's one thing we've been talking about UVS recently. Is it seems like they're listening to the community at least a little bit about some of their kind of problem points and doing their best to try to fix them as quickly as possible. All right, final question here. I asked the same thing to Cory, and I think we're gonna try to get the rest of top 4 and ask them, but. Anybody that the event there knows, but for those of us that weren't there, do you have a favorite Pokemon?
Yeah. My favorite Pokemon is Meganium.
Perfect. Alrighty. Well, with that, I do want to thank you very much for taking the time to talk with us, and good luck on future events.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm looking forward to playing as many as I can. So hopefully we see everyone there. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you.